I've opened up the examples that you sent. We have the three bimini tops, an enclosure, and the boat cover. What I'm going to do right now is just kind of go through this middle one real quickly and show you the tools. We can get into more depth next week when we have our web demo. So let me just I'll just hide this one. I'll delete it. I'll just delete these two here, and we'll zoom in on this enclosure here. So basically, let me go through this. These tools are exact flat tools. So we have mesh tools, we have our flattening tools, and our highlight tools. First thing I like to do is a lot of times we get scans or we get some meshes that aren't great to flatten. This tool here, Adaptive Remesh, will let us select the sections here and remesh them. So I'll just hit enter, and it's going to bring up a dialog box here, and it's got some information on what the size of the mesh I want and desired boundary tolerances and whatnot. I'm just using our default for marine canvas, and I'm going to hit start. And what you'll see, as soon as I hit start, basically it's gone and it's redefined these meshes and actually simplified them so they're a lot easier for flattening. Once I've done that, I'll just hit OK here. Um, Now the next tool I would use, I go into tools and we go from left to right. So the first button or first icon I'm presented with is the flatten. So it'll ask me to select the pieces that I want flattened. So I'll go through here and select these three pieces, then simply hit enter on my keyboard. And if I go into layers and I go into my pattern layer and I turn off all these other layers, extraneous layers, uh, I'm just using the mouse here. Last one here, so I'll turn all that off. I'll go into my top view, Control Alt E on my keyboard, and basically I'm going to go now and show the strain analysis. So if I go into rendered mode, you can see the strain. If I go into this cog here, it has a legend, and this is the legend. So sag minus 0.5%. Anything below that shows up as black. Now, we don't really have any black. White is no strain at all. Then cyan is 5%. Green is 10. 15 is yellow. And 20 and above is red. So I can set these tolerances so everything that's above 5% shows up as red. That gives me a very visual idea that I can't really flatten it. Now, as we talked on the phone, our flattener is two stages. So the first stage is done. It basically gives me a projected flat. Now what I'm going to do is optimize. So what I would do here is I go into my next tool, which is a spring tool, or even better, I'll show you this tool. This tool is called a fracture tool. What it does is it'll actually go through and alleviate some strain on that material. It basically optimizes the projected flat, and then it allows me just to go into my spring, and I'll select these three pieces, hit enter on my keyboard, and this is where I could browse through the different materials that we have in our database. So we can, right now I'm just going to use cotton fabric for flattening purposes. I'll hit OK here, and it's going to go through, and as you can see, it's basically taking out the stress. So it tries to get each piece to zero energy. So it's gone through the first piece. Now it's going to check on the second piece, which is done, and now it's gone to the third piece. So that's basically how quickly it works. Just hit OK here, and I can grab these pieces and just kind of move them around. And the next thing I may want to do is I want to say add notches. So I could go open up my notch tag, go in, and in this case I have a V notch. I'll just go in and I'll add V notches. I'll add one here, and one here. Now as you can see, as I add notches to this one side, it's actually notching exactly on the other side where it gets notched. So here, here, and let's just zoom in and select here. So you can see basically notches there and there. The next thing I want to do would be to go through. We have a thing, I'll just get out my notch tool. We have binoculars, which we call the find tool. So we can go and we can find where pieces match up. So that piece matches up there, and that piece matches up there. And you can see the notches basically align themselves. Let's take this off again, and we'll show you how one of the other tools works, which is a cut tool. So the cutting tool is this tool right here. I have a planar cut. I can just do a straight cut, or I can create a line on the surface and use that as a cutting plane. So if I just go here, start here, oops, and go straight down to here, I've now actually created two pieces. I can then, if I don't like that cut there, I could go and I could delete the cut, which is that little eraser, and I'll just basically join the two pieces together. I can actually even go through and I can join pieces that I've all flattened, and then I would do simply another flatten. So I've taken those three pieces you created, I've created one piece out of it. I'm going to spring it and just hit enter. And it might take a little bit more time to flatten this one out, but that's because we actually joined three pieces. So I don't know if that's of any benefit for what you guys are doing, but it's something kind of that you can do, and you can see visually. If I turn on the model, and I'll just go Control-Alt-E. So over here, I got to find the 3D model. I have the 3D model over here. Okay, right there, and I have the 2D piece over here. But you can see, like, those notches I left in here are actually showing up over on the 2D side. So anything I do to the 3D piece happens to the 2D piece. So for instance, if I go to the 3D model and I did a random cut, and this is not using a plane cutter, this is just following the polygons. But you can see, as I make the cut over here, it shows up on my 2D piece. That's why I say it. If I had strain and I want to get rid of it and I want to add a relief cut or a dart, I could do that quite easily, right? I could just go in and basically select the piece, create the cut, and then re-expand the piece out. If I didn't like it, I could just go back in and delete the cut. And then basically whatever I do to the 3D happens to the 2D. The final thing, I'll just turn off this. That I can show you, I guess, is basically just exporting. So we have our own export button. It's this DXF export, so I could export the DXF out here, just call it DSE for whatever. I go in File, Open. No, I don't want to save that project. I want to go into my DXF, pull it up here, wherever it is. Oh, actually I'm in my wrong directory, sorry. So go here, just pull it up, and I guess we're in inches, and there's our piece right there. This line here is basically the grain line of the part. And you can see over here in the far right, we have a grain, cut, notch, seam, tag, and notch. The one thing I didn't add here is a seam allowance, and I could have if I went into my exact flat tools, and right here you can see DXF seam allowance. I have it set at 0, but I could set it at 6 inches, 10 inches, 1 inch, 3/4 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch, whatever. I just type in the value here, and it basically would create the geometry of the seam along the perimeter of the part. Anyway, that's basically how the software works. As I said, we can delve into it more in depth next week. As I said, I'm open Tuesday or Wednesday. Thursday, Friday, I'm gone. Look forward to talking to you folks and doing a demo. Have a great weekend. Thanks.